there are so many things that people do not take seriously, but they end up being what really, really, really matter. Government comes up with programs to solve certain key problems, but sometimes, somehow, they appear to fail. We'll discuss all of that and why this is happening, if it happens, but we have someone who understands development and what it means to discuss all of this. She is a professor of mass communication in the University of Lagos, Professor Abigail Ogweze. Thank you so much for joining us on special interview.
Thank you.
Now let's begin with one of the key things that people keep talking about and discussing from time to time. And quite recently, some northern elders came out to say that conducting census in Nigeria this year may not be the best. The reason is because it is close to another general election. What's your reaction to this in terms of the need to have a specific number or an idea of the population of the country, where they live and all of that, to aid planning?
Well, thanks. I'm not likely to talk about the timing for the population census, but I think that it's very important that we carry out census the way we do elections. We should have a census timetable, because if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Let me give you this example. When you look at Nigeria, okay, you are working here in Television Continental. You know the number of people you have in each unit or department. It helps you to plan. You know whether you have enough drivers, you know whether you have enough cameramen, you know whether... So if we don't have the right figures, census figures as a country, could that account for why our development programs are in throes? Now, let's take this example. If you don't know the number of girls that in the next 5-10 years will be women of childbearing age, how would you know the number of pediatricians to get? How would you know the number of gynecologists to get? Now, if you don't have an average to say that every 5 years, this is the number of children that we need classrooms, could this account for why we have crowded classrooms? Could this account for why, for instance, you go to a health facility, you may spend a whole day? We're not now talking about even the quality of healthcare services. We'll also be talking about the timeline for service delivery. And tomorrow you wake up, you say Nigerians are going into self-medication. You know, in civilized climate where people plan based on numbers, based on the population of the people can make projection. I recall as an undergraduate, I used to have Mwalimu Pisi Kim Tesigwa from Kiswahili Council. He came from Tanzania to teach us. And he said that he doesn't understand what is wrong with our country. That in their country, before you graduate, they will know the number of people who are studying mass communication, who are doing medicine, and they would have had their posting. So we don't have the figures to plan. And if you look at that, that could also account for why we're having issues with our development. So it's very important that we don't play politics with census. We don't play politics with census. It's, you know, a very focused nation should do census periodically. It's not whether it is election time or it's not election time. What they need to do is to come out with timetable. You know, election will come in the next 4 years. So why wait to till election period and now begin to say they shouldn't do election? Okay, how do you know the number of people, for instance, of voting age? How do you know that? So could this account for the gaps, you know, that they seize to manipulate results? So I think it's time we tell ourselves the home truth. Nobody jokes with the election timetable. Nobody should also joke with population, because it helps for planning.
Okay, all right. In 2018, when Nigeria was described as the poverty capital of the world, there were 86.9 million people said to be living below poverty line. And that accounts for about 50% of the entire population in Nigeria. In 2020, the situation became worse because 51% of the Nigerian population at that time were living with below $2 per day, which was seen as the worst situation. And more than half of the Nigerian population at that time was within that bracket. Now, government has continued to develop programs to alleviate the issue of poverty, to address, you know, to improve that numbers. But unfortunately, it appears that for every program government comes up with, there are increase in the number of people that get poorer. Why do you think that brilliant programs, so to say, fail to realize the desired results?
Well, thank you very much. It's governments may have good intentions, but they are not achieving results. Paradoxically, Nigerian economy is growing, but poverty is on the increase. And so we should know that something is wrong. I think that we need to realize that having a growing economy without socio-economic development, without social development, is motion without movement. So you are running on one spot. So you say Nigeria is the largest economy in Africa. Am I correct? But at the end of the day, you have a lot more people living in poverty. And so we are yet as a nation, to have our policies well thought out for the people. And just looking at it in terms of numbers, the amount that people live on, $1, $2, we're just looking at numbers without looking at issues. We should be talking about welfare. Recently, they say minimum wage was 30,000. And government keeps telling you that inflation is under control. But we go to the market, the high cost of living, it's obvious for everybody to see. You take your salary, you step out, and it doesn't take you anywhere. So we should be talking more of even improving welfare, quality of schools. Many of us, you and I went to public schools all my life. My children have never been to public schools. From pre-primary, through high school. Perhaps maybe when they get to the tertiary, they're going to do that. I went to public schools all my life. So do we have enough schools for people? So even when you take the minimum wage, what does it translate into? Look at the high costs of transportation. Now we're talking about fuel. Since I was born till today, till date, every time we have periodic increase in the prices of fuel. Once that is done, so many things shoot up. And they are not likely to come back. And so we have a problem on our hands. The government, they don't engage the people. And you should also know that we have things like impunity. We have impunity, we have lack of accountability. So, you can push in a lot of money. We have this knack for throwing money at issues. And when you are bringing out issues, social development issues, did you engage with the people? If you want development, you have to work with people within their socio-cultural networks and norms. So you can't sit in Abuja and plan for us. You don't engage with us. Okay, if you're talking about poverty, how do we elevate poverty? When you have increase in unemployment, when you don't have enough schools for people. And so if we're going to deal with this reduction in poverty, we should not be talking about just the number. So if you say 30,000 naira a month, that's like $75. Am I correct? With current exchange rate, that's like $75. So what's $75 for a family of 4? Electricity does not work. You have to buy water, road, security, and so many things. And so we're going to have this on and on. And the government, they have to be realistic. They need to engage with the people. They need to know what the issues are. Have they ever gone to the communities? If you're a legislator, for instance, representing my constituency, how many times have you gone on tour to see the schools, to see the road, to see the state of electricity, to see the state of hospitals and all that? And have you gone to look at whether we have factories, how not having electricity has affected production, and because we don't have production, many people are unemployed? Do we have development plans? How are we running them? So you can't just sit and say, you are going to give any social intervention program. I don't want to pick on anyone. Any social intervention program. It's well thought out. You are thinking about it on your own, but you are not engaging with the people. Is that what they know?
Are you saying that those programs appear good and suitable while on paper,
yes,
but while in the process of implementation, it fails to address the real issues?
Yes. And I also want to add that, you see, largely sometimes you see that there's a disconnect between what federal government is doing and what they're doing at the subnational level, including the states, including the local governments. I had seen a commissioner for health for a state who said he's never seen the National Integrated Maternal and Child Health SBCC documents. So how will you key into what they're doing at the federal? How do you key? There are so many things on the concurrent list. All those welfare things, education, health, and what have you. But how are they working in synergy, both the states and, federal government, including the local government? So everybody is doing his or her own thing. At the end, we are not in sync, and at the end, that is what is fueling the insecurity, kidnapping. People are hungry. So those people we are neglecting today, they will hunt everybody tomorrow. So the reality is that we have to deal with the people. What are their needs? We need to do real needs assessments. You can't stay in Abuja and be ruling. Say you are representing one constituency, the people don't have access to you, you don't know what their issues are. I recall as a student in England, one of the things that we're doing, and even the local NGOs, they have to come on board. It's now that, you can just go to a website and post whatever you want to post, send through email and all that. We're writing in longhand, sending letters to the MP representing the counties where we were. And they will know what the issues are. How are they engaging with the people? They just come episodic. They come episodic, there was census, school food, and give to them this. After that, everybody will go back again. So they have to go to the field. They need to engage with the people. They need to know what the issues are. We need to come up with a plan. We need to know that, if unemployment is at so point, in the next 1 year, maybe we'll reduce it by 1% or 2% and on and on. And so we should also have key performance indicators. We need to bring all the line ministries, to work together and to give them KPI, because it's another time they just come up with a budget and everybody keeps running. Another 12 months again, we'll go and defend budget. What are the KPIs? What has changed? What has not changed? So we are doing motion without movement.
That's a very worrisome scenario where people are struggling and working so hard in order to get to a certain destination, but in reality, they are just at a spot. Okay, well, if Nigeria's population continues to grow at 2.6% annual projection. Remember that the global rate remains 1.05%. It is likely that Nigeria's population will hit 400 million by 2050. A lot of people, when you presented this before them, it's a bit worrisome. Scary. What does that tell you, or what are you thinking, having in mind the current economic realities in Nigeria, where we are expecting that the country's population is likely going to hit 400 million in next few years?
Well, thanks. I, as an individual, you have two schools of thought. You have people who talk about demographic dividends and those who talk about demographic disaster. Those people that talk about demographic disaster, they're actually people who believe in the Malthusian school that talks about finite resources. But for me, I think that the problem that we should be facing is how we manage our population. We are looking at, I see that we have a huge population, but we have deficit in the quality. We have deficit in the quality. And
I'd like you to take that again. We have a huge population.
Yes. But which should be an asset.
An asset, yeah, because a lot of people believe that the large population Nigeria has is actually a huge market.
Huge market. It is a huge market.
But it turns out to become a problem.
Yes, because we are an unproductive economy.
Okay.
You see, if you look at population, people talk about finite resources. Those are the Malthusian school of thought, and they just feel that when you have too many people, there will be reduction in quality of life. And so for me, I feel that our population is a blessing. We have models in countries like Singapore. They're even bigger than India. They have managed their population well. So population should be seen as an asset. Even investors coming, if we have developed our population, they have access to labor. They have access to labor. If the industries are working, we can even have good manufacturing, get people employed, and we manufacture and export to other African countries. Government will benefit and get more tax from those people. It will improve quality of life for those who have even retired, the aged. And so I think that management is the issue. Now, if you look at what Unilag, I'm going to talk about Unilag. Now, we have even seen that in our training programs as an institution, we are having incubation hub, we have entrepreneurship center. And so that when you are collecting formal certificate in whatever, you also have skills. And things like IT, should be made compulsory. Industry should also help so that they can skill them for them to be competitive. But be that as it may, government needs to create enabling environment. Ask yourself, where are the Dunlops of this world? Why are other manufacturing firms moving to other West African countries? It's because we don't have the enabling environment, and tomorrow we cry foul that we don't have People are unemployed. You know, we have high rate of unemployment. Look at our medics. The Nigerian doctors are the best anywhere in the world. Today, we still suffer poor doctor-patient ratio because at the end, they leave. And because they leave, because you don't have enabling environment, hospitals are not functional. You see them build gigantic hospital. They don't send these people for training. They don't get the right equipment. They don't reskill them. And so I have a problem with the way we are managing our population. Industrial Training Fund should come on board. SMIDA should come on board.
Industrial Training Fund has always been there.
Yeah, I'm saying
but their impact.
Yes, their impact is not felt. You know, they should come on board. They should, NUC, SMIDA, Industrial Training Fund, universities, all tertiary institutions, they should work together. Even our technical schools, vocational skills. People need all these things because it's the SMEs that are driving economy. So I think that we have a problem with management of population. For me, population is a blessing. Population is an asset. Nigeria has a model in countries like Singapore.
Okay, what I'm taking away from this is that the size of the population is not the problem, but how it is managed and developed. If it's properly managed, it becomes a huge asset. If it's not properly managed, it becomes a problem that the nation may have to deal with. All right, at the last check, 28 states out of 36 in Nigeria have domesticated the Child Rights Act. 8 states are still pending. Now, let me get your reaction, first of all, on what you think about this, because the Child Rights Act had begun several years ago, and we still see situations and scenarios that suggest that there is not much regard for the future of the country because the children are believed to be the future of the country. What's your reaction, first of all, to the failure of these 8 states to domesticate the law that provides for the rights of the children?
Well, it's a shame that we're still where we are, though development is a process, and I commend the 28 states. The Child Rights Act was passed at the national level in 2003. So we have the Child Rights Act 2003. But prior to that, Nigeria has been a signatory to many international documents, international instruments on the rights of a child. The children are the future of a country. You deny them today. That's why a child you neglect today is the tomorrow's bandit, is the tomorrow's armed robber, is the tomorrow's kidnapper. So if we are dealing with the rights of the child, if you look at that document, it's well thought out. You know, it has about four pillars. You have a child right to survival. That talks about issues of nutrition, well-being, survival. And good governments are now saying, maybe like Lagos State government, they give you enough maternity leave to exclusively breastfeed your child for a while. And you know, now if you look at, you talked about poverty, you read out statistics about poverty. A poor family will not be able to feed a child well. If they don't feed a child well, they'll be stunting. Mental development will become an issue. So if we have that as if it's legislated, then people should be held accountable. Now, from there, you talk about development. Now, we should be saying children should go to school. It's good to talk about the school feeding programs, but you also have to talk about the spaces in school for people to have access. You know, we're talking about issues of child labor. I was involved in the project, and what were they? All those children in cocoa farms, and quarries and all that. So even when you go and advocate at the community level, send your children to school, they say there are no schools around. So if you are talking about child development, a nation's development is hinged on the quality of education. Go to countries like Malaysia. Those are the things that they are doing. So it's important. We're happy that they've signed. And when you talk about, after talking about survival, you talk about development, you not talk about child protection. We talk about identity of children. We know how many children that are in conflict with the law, how many of them are being tried through juvenile justice, and that's why judicial reforms will come into place. That's why we need to train our law enforcement officers to not. It's just important to have the documents signed. It's also important to think about implementation, because signing some of those documents, they are just like political statements. Okay, I've signed it. So people will not say as a state we didn't pass it. Implementation should be an issue. And also you should talk about child participation. We are in a global world where children should have a say. we like some of the states that say, oh, you have a child governor for a particular day or something, children. But apart from the Children's Day, where we just talk about issues affecting children, every other thing, how many things do they participate in our nation? We should strengthen our education, strengthen different programs, science, technology, engineering, arts and mathematics, STEAM. People are talking about STEAM now. They're not just talking about STEM, because now there was a program that I saw, I think it was on TVC. One guy ran that story where they use dance to bring out children from the slum. So in every child lies greatness.
It's actually TVC,
yes.
Our correspondent Ola Wako.
Yes. So in every child lies greatness. In every child lies a great future. If they did not develop the Ngozi Okonjo-Iwealas of this world, will they do us proud? What about addition of African Development Bank? So the examples are there. So in every child lies greatness. So I think that it's a wise thing. It's a rewarding thing for states to do that, so that they can have peaceful environment. They will not be afraid as governors when they leave office that somebody is going to kidnap them. When you finish that, make sure that it's implemented. And I would recommend
I think that's where the issue, another part of the issue is,
yes,
the implementation.
Yes.
Because some of these states where these laws have been domesticated, you still have children that are not in school, you still have cases of child labor, you still have poor medical facilities, you still have poorly funded schools.
Yes.
And you come into a classroom and you have up to 100 pupils in one small room. So these are issues that suggest that perhaps it may not just be the domestication of these laws, but the implementation.
Yes, implementation is very critical. So what I would say, Child Right Information Bureau, CRIB, or Federal Ministry of Information, should not rest on its oars. They should continue with the advocacy. And even states that have domesticated, they should come up with policies, implementable policies. And the CSOs should hold them accountable to it. You know that development is a process. It's the right step in the right direction. But I am of the opinion that we should also not just stop at laws, we should have policies, and we should implement the policies. And the CSOs, just as we're talking about it as media people, it's our contribution to nation building, the NGOs and all that, should hold them to account, to walk the talk. You don't just sign a document without walking the talk. You see, many of them, they say, oh, they are bandits, people were kidnapped on the road. It's the child you neglected today. So they should see it as a wise investment, implementing policies, coming up with policies and implementing them so that we can enhance children's rights. When we enhance children's rights, we will now have responsible adults tomorrow. And so it's a preventive strategy to dealing with insecurity. It's a preventive strategy in terms of having the quality manpower that we need, so we don't begin to get foreigners to come and do our job. It's a preventive strategy to having our people get stuck in Libya. It's a preventive strategy to having our people go on irregular migration and getting drowned. So, and it will enhance the prestige of our country. So it's one thing to say you have a good country, good people, great nation. It's just sloganeering. It's the quality of life that matters. That is why our people would stop going to embassies and be treated like third-class citizens. Okay. Well, that is when our political office holders will stop going to take medical care abroad because they have belief in their country. Look at Mandela. How many times was he going abroad to take medical care?
Okay,
so what the dish they are serving us and serving the children, they should enjoy it.
Exactly. Perhaps another election is coming close.
Yes.
I mean, we have a few months. Proper campaign will begin to, take place in every part of the country because of all the elections, governorship, National Assembly, and all of that, including the presidential election. Are you recommending that the electorates will prepare to find out whoever they're voting into power, the person's views and capacity to carry out some of these reforms you are recommending, you're pointing out in this whole conversation?
Well, that would be the right step in the right direction. But you and I, you know how elections are in our country. But we will not give up. We will continue to push. That is the way to go. Your power is in your PVC. Go and get your PVC. Go and vote. It's not just enough to come and protest. It's the time to make change, the right change. We shouldn't be sloganeering with the word change. We should leave the word change. You see, I found out something in development. If you don't get to a level of discontent, you are not likely to push for change. So the right thing to do is get your PVCs, queue, don't let anybody discourage you. If you say you are not going to go, you give them enough room to manipulate, go and get the candidate of your choice. And it is also important to hold them to account, so you don't continue to recycle them. If somebody did not do, they should have, they had their manifesto. Bring out the manifesto and check. Did you do what you said you were going to do? You move to another person who is likely to do it. So that is the right point for change. That is the power of the office of the citizen.
All right, the power of the office of the citizen. We will never be tired, you said. We'll continue to push. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us on special interview, Professor Abigail Ogweze.
Thank you for having me.
And to you that watched, it's our pleasure that you did. Let's do it again. But remember, we will never be tired. We will keep pushing. Thanks for watching.